What's up, y'all? Another day, another theater pick coming your way. As a co-production with the Geffen Playhouse, Steppenwolf presents Noises Off by Michael Frayne and directed by Tony Award-winning ensemble member Anna D. Shapiro. It's about a theater ensemble doing its best to get through, I'ma just say it, a disaster of a play. And from lost props to line flubs, I dare you not to laugh. Me personally, I love a good meta comedy. Noises Off runs September 12th through October 27th. You can buy tickets starting at just $20 at steppenwolf.org. If you need another show to put on your calendar, I got you. Make sure you catch the full Monty at Paramount Theater in Aurora from August 21st through October 6th. Winner of 9 Tony Awards, the musical is about laid-off steelworkers trying to survive their economic troubles with a plan that takes them way out of their comfort zone. Get your tickets today at ParamountAurora.com or call the box office at 630-896-6666. But if you buy online, you can get $5 off per ticket, up to 4 tickets with promo code CityCast, all one word. Again, that's ParamountAurora.com and use the promo code CityCast. Today on CityCast Chicago, DNC frustrations are mounting, Riot Fest is apparently back in Douglas Park, and the Bears is looking real good on Hard Knocks, y'all. Helping me break it all down from the Tribe, editor-in-chief Tiffany Walden and community investment reporter Corley J. It's Friday, August 16th. I'm Jacoby Cochran, and this is what Chicago's talking about. Morning, my friends. Always good to have y'all in the building. Corley, welcome back to the mic.
Good morning, Jacoby. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you. And Tiffany, you've been gone for damn near a whole year. It is finally good to have you back on CityCast Chicago.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Hey, later in the episode, we're going to talk about why you've been gone so long, all of the beautiful things you've gotten to do. But first, I want to look back on an episode we did earlier this week. This is a time of the summer where we know a lot of us have visitors in town, whether it's friends and family. Obviously, the DNC is next week. We're going to talk a lot about frustrations there. But I wanted to know, when y'all have people in town, there's obviously way too many things to do, but what's something that's on your list that you got to take people to just so they get that personal, unique Chicago slice from your perspective? Corley, I'm going to start with you.
Oh, it's so perfect that you said slice, because come to Chicago, they have to come to Italian Fiesta.
Yes.
My favorite one to go to is on 81st and Halsted. Been going there since forever. And I just love Italian Fiesta. Some people think that it's too greasy, but it's just so perfect for me. So that is my place that I like to take people.
Tiffany, what about you? Whether it's food, whether it's a place that you like to stop by, what's something you make sure that your visitors experience when they're here?
A lot of my family, they from Chicago. They just moved away. So my sister, for example, she live in Orlando, and when she come up here, she got to hit all her spots. So we definitely going to get a beef sandwich immediately. Immediately. Even when I'm coming back from out of town, first place I go is get a beef sandwich. My favorite place is Scatchels. It's in Cicero. It's on Cicero off of Cermak. I grew up in North Lawndale off Lexington and Pulaski, so that was right around by us. And man, Scatchels is my absolute favorite.
Every single week, if you are new to CityCast Chicago, we love to bring in these amazing voices, our friends from across the city, to talk about the stories they were paying attention to this week. And so, of course, with the DNC coming next week with an expected 50,000 visitors coming to Chicago, this has been top of mind for a lot of us. And the truth is, frustrations continue to mount, right? We've already seen protesters are frustrated about the routes and the lack of access. People are peeved about the lack of transparency around the security budget. Corley, you wrote about that last week, and we talked about it in last week's episode. Outside police presence is going to be here. People are concerned about where they're going to stay, how they're going to be held accountable. And another story I read this week, many of the officers accused of misconduct and abuse during the 2020 protests have not only remained on the force, faced little to no consequences, but many of them will likely be working during the DNC. So I set up all of that because, Corley, you've been talking directly to residents on the West Side, those who will be impacted the most. What did they have to say?
Yeah, it's a lot. I'm glad you had that set up because we're just about 4 days, 3 days away from the DNC, and the police has been saying they've been doing canvassing since April, reaching out to people, knocking on their doors, telling them about the security perimeter. But just days before the 4 day event, people still have so many questions about if they can park in front of their house, what they won't be able to carry, having to show ID verification to get to and from their homes. So it's a lot of concerns, and people have a lot of questions. With many saying that they're going to reach out to the alderman because they have so many questions that haven't been answered. I talked to two residents of Patrick Sullivan senior apartment building, and they worry about just being patrolled, not being able to feel peace sitting outside of their home. They sit outside, enjoy each other's company, talk to each other, and with the U.S. Secret Service being over there, they just don't feel safe, and they feel like they are more concerned with protecting the people who are here for the event rather than their own well-being. I saw a lot of parking restriction and toll zone signs when I were out there. Many starting on the 14th, but some of the barricades kind of stop cars from parking just this week before they say the parking restrictions start. So many are concerned of feeling like outsiders inside their own community, but also feeling like kind of locked up, barricaded with the event coming.
For people who maybe aren't going to be near the United Center or the McCormick Place going to avoid it, I know like the three of us, we are likely at some point to have to stop by, and we expect to go through extra security protocols. But for somebody who is just a resident on the block, what do you like, based on what you know now, what are some of the things they have to navigate? Like, is there a security checkpoint they're going to have to go through that's different for cars and walking? How is transit going to be affected on those blocks?
Yeah, for sure. Transit is definitely affected. The Madison bus, in particular, the number 20 bus, will reroute from turn on Western and bypass a couple blocks and then return on Madison or Ashland. A couple folks won't be able to get their Uber, their ride sharing, which some people take to work. One lady that I talked to will offer a ride to one of her neighbors so she can get to work. And she knows kind of some side streets that she says she had to take to bypass the busy ones that will be blocked off, like Monroe, Madison, or Adams, going down side streets. I think she said Oakley and Sealy that she knows how to take to get from south to west and north, wherever she needs to go. And some people are just worried about just having to have that interaction with police and having to show their ID. So they have to show their ID to those patrolling inside the perimeter. A lot of them are confused about what they won't be able to carry, if they're going to be stopped for carrying like a laptop, backpacks, and certain things. So it's a lot of uncertainty that's going on with this security perimeter, and I definitely feel for them.
Yeah. Tiffany, as you've been trying to get more and more information out of the DNC, not even as a resident, but just as somebody in the media wanting to know more, how frustrating has it been? Because we've been talking about this for over a year, and yet we 4 days out, 3 days out with so many questions lingering.
It's very frustrating for journalists and for newsrooms across the board. Everybody has been trying to get information out of the police department, out of the city of Chicago, and has been met with resistance a lot of times, depending on what they ask for. A lot of the journalists I'm in community with and newsrooms that I'm in community with, they've submitted FOIA requests, just like Corley did for her piece about the $75 million that the city is getting from DOJ and funding, security funding. And a lot of times those FOIAs, you get them back, they're heavily redacted. And there's been some other reporters, like at The Reader, at Injustice Watch, that have submitted FOIAs asking for more details around the 500 police officers that are coming into the city from out of town. They get responses from the FOIA office saying that the police trainings or anything involving the police planning is still in draft form. And so they don't have to turn that stuff over because it's in draft form. And it's like, y'all, the thing is, the DNC is less than a week away and stuff is still in draft form. What does that even mean? And it also leaves room for, the in-between things to happen. So if there isn't clear guidelines, which organizers are upset about, if there isn't clear guidelines around what people can carry on them down the street, or where people can walk, or where people can go, or where people can protest, that leaves room for arrests. that leaves room for people to, law enforcement particularly, to do what they want to do and then deal with the repercussions of it on the back end.
Let's stay on the inconveniences, the annoyances. We talked a lot about how our colleagues, some of us, have felt frustrated trying to get more information, but even as journalists are trying to navigate getting into the DNC, having to move around, media members are bringing up more concerns because the price tag for some newsrooms is turning a lot of people off. Corley, I didn't even realize that it costs money for media to be inside of the convention grounds. And so this story kind of caught me off guard.
Yeah, exactly. The WBZ did a story of the cost to attend the DNC for media. And like you said, Jacoby, I didn't know either. Like, I thought this was free for media to cover. We're covering it. But the price tag is insane. So the advance rate was $751 for an assigned chair and a table with access to an electrical outlet. But now, that has passed for the advance rate. So now the rate is $911, which is insane because, it kind of stops smaller newsrooms like us at the Tribe and those who don't have those resources to kind of get into these spaces to do the job we need to do. And it's creating like that bigger gap when it comes to like legacy media and nonprofit and startup newsroom. What's also important to know, I think, is that the DNC also partnered with influencers, and I think that was kind of also kind of the kind of contention there, kind of tension, because journalists were saying like, we're doing a job, we are here to give facts, when you are allowing influencers into this because they're basically being PR for the Democratic Party.
This is no longer about having people there who are going to ask critical questions, who are going to break down why all of these foyers are heavily redacted. And it's not to say that influencers don't, like, there aren't influencers with journalism backgrounds or influencers who try to do very detailed work, but what you have there is just a difference of standards. And, when you simply want influencers who have numbers, who can bring eyes to the DNC, like you said, PR for essentially a large scale vote blue campaign, but you're not offering that same access to journalists who are likely to be more critical about your messaging, more critical about their concerns about the way the convention is going, more critical about what they're not hearing from the top brass out of the Democratic Party. So maybe you out here trying to live a greener life. Maybe you want to reduce the amount of food waste heading to Chicago's landfills and you're thinking about composting. If so, you got to try Waste Not. Here's how it works. Waste Not gives you a 5-gallon bucket with an airtight lid. That's where you're going to toss your food scraps, cooked or raw, paper products like napkins and coffee filters, and anything else that's certified compostable. Then the Waste Not team comes and collects your full bucket in electric service vehicles, might I add, and they leave you a clean, empty one. This happens every week or every other week, depending on your needs. Plus, for my gardeners out there, y'all gonna be able to get back some of the finished compost you helped create without ever having to deal with all the gross parts of the process. So give Waste Not a try and check out wastenotcompost.com. CityCast Chicago listeners can test the service with a free month by using promo code CityCastCompost. Every single Friday, we not only cover the major headlines on the front covers of the legacy papers around our city, but we also want to break down stories that maybe didn't get as much attention. And Tiffany, I want to stay with you and focus on a story that is coming out of the Tribe from Tonia Hill. You all have been doing a reimagining series on reframing crime narratives. And recently she sat down with a Peacekeepers initiative and the folks over at Good Kids Mad City. Can you tell me a little bit about what she learned at their pilot program?
For sure. So the Reframing Crime narrative series that we've been doing is the brainchild of our publisher, Morgan Elise Johnson. And it's a 10-part series where we unpack, public safety and try to create, a community conversation about crime in Chicago. And for Tonia's piece, she went to Good Kids Mad City and shadowed their pilot program for peacekeeping. And she really got to see the power in uplifting youth and like giving them the tools to go back into their communities and to become these like change makers on the block.
Can you remind people what peacekeeping looks like? And also maybe a little bit about what Good Kid, Mad City wants out of their peace book?
Yeah, for sure. So peacekeeping, according to Tonia's story and the people that she interviewed, is, a person stopping, violence when they see it, or a person not egging it on. So we all been in high school, right? Where like a fight break out in the cafeteria or something. And, as kids, your natural response sometimes is to just egg it on or to just like rile people up. But, the Peacekeepers program is teaching youth, not to do that. Let's find ways to break it up. Let's find ways to separate people. Let's find ways to get them to calm down and to see the bigger picture.
Also, how can we address conflict before it gets to the point right before violence is about to happen? Like, if you're aware that there's a feud, there's beef between two people, two groups, it's sort of being more proactive, going to try and find ways we can remedy that. Can we sit down with each other?
Right. And it's like you're dealing with young people too. And so, again, I can speak for myself. I've been young. I grew up on the West Side. Like I've seen fights. I've seen at school fights be planned where it's like, all right, these two people are beefing and they gonna fight, at this place at this time after school, and everybody would show up, and crowd around that fight. And so, this is to me a super important and super crucial program that I hope moves beyond the pilot part of the phase into something that's sustainable, because kids should be taught these skills, and it's something that has to be really implemented into like early childhood development, especially for folks who are coming from divested and underserved communities. And Good Kids, Mad City as a whole is, for the past few years have been trying to get their peace book passed, and asking for some of the dollars that's going into the Chicago police budget, which is like nearly $2 billion, asking for some of those dollars to fund their peace book. And that's just calling for more community-run services for violence interruption, education, mental health programs, and more.
We're going to drop links in our show notes where you can not only read Tonia's story, but also learn more about Good Kids, Mad City. Also follow them on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter as well, where they're constantly providing more information, places that you can do outreach and get to know them a little bit more. One annoying story before we get into our good news, and it's mostly annoying because of how incremental it is. Late Wednesday night, it was sort of a backtracking from the leadership team over at Riot Fest, where they announced they will be returning to Chicago. And no, not in 2025. I'm talking about September the 20th through the 22nd. They say they will be back at Douglas Park for Riot Fest for, I believe, the 9th time. Now, you might be hearing this and you might be very confused, because back in June, those same organizers came out with a lot of vitriol towards the Chicago Park District and announced that Riot Fest would no longer be at Douglas Park, that it was moving to Bridgeview SeatGeek Stadium, which caused its own headache. And now we're here. So, Corley, I got to bring you in here. I did not expect this. I don't know what's going on. Expect this.
Like, people that bought their tickets, they got hotels near Bridgeview so they can go to the concert, and they then came back on Wednesday talking about, we back in Chicago, y'all. Douglas Park, join us.
We back home.
It's insane. After trashing the Park District, and the Park District just welcomed them back with open arms, and people just like, what's going on? I feel so bad for the people that bought tickets thinking it's going to be in Bridgeview. And they had a whole layout. They had the whole website where
Riot Land,
carnival kind of amusement park kind of feel. They had the whole layout. Like, look at this new Riot Fest, y'all. And they just like got slapped. Like, okay, we told y'all this was happening, and we didn't trash y'all Park District. But yeah, we back here. We lied. I'm sorry.
The part, the we back home part is what blew me so
bro, that blew
bad.
me. That was wild. That was goofy.
Y'all was never at home. These people been trying to get y'all out of Douglas Park for years. Like I remember early, like at least like 2016, like I was out there covering like the community trying to get these people up out of here. Like, so it's like they did this during DNC week, knowing that everybody's attention, everybody's staffing, everything can only think about the DNC. and y'all come in and drop this crazy news when can't nobody really do nothing about it. And by the time the DNC is over with, it'll be September.
So when they announced it initially in June, people were already upset and confused, particularly the people who wanted to go to Riot Fest, because moving out to Bridgeview was going to be a hassle, and it was scheduled for a Red Stars game. So the Red Stars came out and was like, what are y'all doing? Hold on. We just played the biggest game in our league's history up at Wrigley, and now y'all moving us out for Riot Fest. So at that time, Alderwoman Monique Scott of the 24th Ward comes out, and she seems like the biggest supporter of Riot Fest. She's saying this is a black eye for North Lawndale. This takes away jobs. This takes away the opportunity to highlight the community, which flies in the face of what, like you point out, Tiffany, what organizers and protesters have been saying for years.
And residents too.
Now to hear this less than a month out, and from my understanding, the Park District hasn't completely hasn't completely approved all of the permits. So similar to the Riot Land announcement, in which people in Bridgeview, the Red Stars, were confused, like this doesn't even seem fully approved, but it feels the same in the sense that now North Lawndale residents are confused. People who bought tickets are confused. The Park District hasn't fully approved it. And so the rollout of this at every stage continues to just make me scratch my head.
And it just strips people of their agency. So if people bought tickets thinking that they was, supporting the thing because it moved out to another area, now they got tickets knowing that they going back into an area that really don't want them there. Like those people might not have bought tickets for this thing. And I mean, I don't know if y'all ever been to Riot Fest, but I've been a couple of times. Like, you don't even have to go inside. Like, just go over to Douglas Park when Riot Fest is happening and walk around the neighborhood, and you will see how disruptive it is. It's nowhere for people to park. All the same thing that's going on with the DNC. People can't park their cars. People can't, access public transit. Folks are just completely inconvenienced for something that is not even brought to the neighborhood to cater to the folks who live there.
I've seen some people who have tickets, who are upset about Bridgeview, but are excited for Riot Fest to come back. I'd like to hear from you. Reach out to City Cast Chicago if you're one of those people who are really excited to find out that it's back in North Lawndale, and tell me why. Please reach out to us at 773-780-0246. Like every single episode of City Cast Chicago, this one ends with some good news. That was decent. It wasn't my best. Wasn't my worst. It was all right. It was all right. But we like to make sure every episode ends with something positive, something going on in our guest life, an event they want to put you on to. And Tiffany, let's start with you, because for eagle-eared listeners, I know it's eagle-eyed, but for eagle-eared listeners who've been listening to the podcast for years, they recognize your voice. You've been here so many times. We're so grateful, but you ain't been here for about a year because you was out in California. Can you please tell us, one, why were you out in California, and how did that time go?
For sure. So I got the opportunity to be selected for the John S. Knight Journalism Fellowship out at Stanford University in California. It's a 10-month program. It's during the whole school year, and you get to join national and international fellows from around the world and just work on a journalism project, work on yourself, get some rest, and just learn, new journalism tools, new tech tools to help to help the industry or to help your newsroom that you're going back to. And when I tell you, if anybody who's in the middle of their career in journalism and you just need some time to get away and just think and figure out how to keep moving on, keep pressing on, as they say, do this fellowship. And most importantly, I got to rest and take care of myself, because I didn't realize how burnt out I was. So yeah, I mean, I just feel really refreshed and just thankful that I was able to do that program.
Let's keep this good news train moving. Corley, you already know, G. We text about it. We talk about it. Anytime I bring up the Bears on the podcast, you are the person I am thinking about. And now the Bears is on Hard Knocks. We 2 weeks in, and I know your good news censors our boys again. What you looking forward to?
Oh my God. So I'm glad you brought up Hard Knocks, because I wasn't really feeling Caleb Williams, when they did Justin Fields like that. But like
I
having
know you didn't.
this look into the Bears on Hard Knocks has been so helpful for Caleb Williams for me because I really see it. I see the vision. I didn't see it. No, I ain't gonna lie. I probably was considered a hater, because I was just like I was fuming over them trading Fields because I thought that he was basically getting into what made him who he thought he
Special.
was.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so when we had the Hall of Fame game, which I guess really don't count, but the preseason game against the Bills, bro, like I was like, okay, show me something.
It was some throws in there. I was like, "Ooh, come on, decision making."
Man, I was just like, okay, show me something. And 33-6 against a former Bears quarterback, Trubisky, and then looking at Fields' performance. His first performance with the Steelers and how he did those 2 fumbles. And I was just like, wow, it's really showing us what we could have had this season and where we're going actually with Williams now. So I'm really excited. I wasn't excited at first, but I'm so excited. They're going against the Bengals on Saturday, and I'll be in the building at Soldier Field to witness this. I don't know how long he'll play. It is a preseason game, but I'm hoping he plays at least the first first quarter. And I'm excited to see what he does there with DJ Moore and all of the help that he just has way more help than Fields, I have to say.
Because I remember when they made this decision and you came on and you was not feeling it, but to hear you've been converted in only 2 weeks of Hard Knocks, is it too early to get your prediction? What you think this season? God. Is it too early for a season prediction?
Look, I'm not even about to do that because I don't want to jinx us.
So we had 7 wins last year and you predicted around 8 or 9.
Yeah.
What you thinking this year?
Come on.
All right, maybe if you don't predict wins, let me ask you this. Are we a playoff team?
Of course. Of course we're a playoff team. We got the first draft pick. We are a playoff team. Come on now. We got
Tiffany, I got to ask the same question to you, G. Are we going to the playoffs?
We going to the playoffs. I'm excited. No, we going to the playoffs for real. Like, Keenan Allen being on his team, bringing his wisdom, teaching Caleb like what he needs to do. Like DJ Moore teaching him, them teaching Rome, Jalen Johnson, like Velus Jones.
I was going to say, watching Keenan and Jalen go against each other. Jalen Johnson is our all-pro cornerback. Keenan Allen is an all-pro wide receiver who was traded from the San Diego Chargers to the Bears. Watching them work and accept when one beats the other and how iron sharpens iron. Man,
that was so amazing to see.
Overall, I think we all feeling good going into the season, though. Like, we feel confident that our leadership is producing well in terms of the players they bring in, the way that the coaches are going about, like, bringing the players up. Like, it seems like the guidance is a little bit there. There seems to be more fluency from the top of the roster down. And then one of the things I just love about Hard Knocks is just you never get to see this level of storytelling, particularly around NFL players. I got one more piece of good news, and it's an event that's taking place tomorrow, and it's called Revival, brought to you by the I-94 Legacy Project, and it's going to be at First Presbyterian on 64th and Kimbark, and this is a celebration of house and techno music, which were created respectfully in Chicago and Detroit. And so you're going to have Chicago's Lori Branch, Bonita Appleblunt. You're going to have from Detroit, Deej Wide, Tammy, Dion. And so just seeing all of these musicians come together to celebrate house music, to celebrate techno music, to celebrate Black queer joy, Black joy, and what Black folks brought to these genres. And so this is an event that I definitely want people to check out. So I'm going to drop a link in the show notes for you. Again, Revival presented by I-94 with Deep Joy, celebrating all things techno, all things house. You can find a link for tickets in the show notes. It's going to be 3 to 11 o'clock this Saturday on 64th and Kimbark. I got to give a huge round of applause, a bunch of appreciation to 2 of my absolute favorite guests from the tribe, this dynamic duo, Editor-in-Chief Tiffany Walden. Tiffany, always good having you in, my friend.
Thank you. I love being here.
And the person always willing to like go above and beyond, and they bears love and they bears delusion, community investment reporter, Corley J. Always good to see you.
Thank you for having me. I had so much fun.
Now, of course, we can't get out of here without thanking the people who make CityCast Chicago possible. Our executive producer is Simone Alisea. Our producer is Michelle Navarro. Our Hey Chicago newsletter editor is Sydney Madden. Our roving producers this week were Francisco Kilgore and Natalie Rivera. The music we all love listening to is from the homie Sam Thousand, All the Kimonos, and Mark Greenberg from the Mayfair Workshop. And my last thank you, as it is with every episode and every week, is for you, the people who make this podcast and newsletter possible. And you make it possible by sharing us with your friends and family, rating and reviewing the podcast wherever you're listening, subscribing to the Hey Chicago newsletter, and most importantly, being back here bright and early on Monday. We're going to talk to you then. Peace.
I want to say shout out to Matt Eberflus's beard in the backstory
there. Because I was ready for that man to be fired and he put that beard on and I was like, now wait a minute.
Okay.
No, the beard and the haircut. His wife took care of him.
She
was
really
like,
did.
You need to look more likable.
Yes.
Right.
I'm like, women be knowing. Women be knowing. You got to listen to women.
No, don't cut that beard, bro. Do not cut that beard.